Hello, and welcome to Cumberland Valley Martial Arts and Yoga Center. My name is Sam. I'll be leading us through our yoga practice today. When you're ready, go ahead and find a comfortable seated position on your mat. That might be easy seated like me, or some form of lotus, or some other comfortable position for you and your body. And go ahead and sit up nice and straight. Walk your glutes back, make sure that back's up nice and straight. If you have a blanket and you have trouble feeling like that back can stay up nice and straight, sometimes you can take just the edge of the blanket and tuck it just under the tip of the tailbone, help tip that pelvis forward and give you that nice feeling of sitting up nice and straight. Find a comfortable position for your hands. It might be palms down on your knees. It might be palms facing up. It might be with a favorite mudra. You can put your left hand at the belly and right hand at heart center, whatever's comfortable for you. And we'll just start our practice off with a couple of nice deep breaths in through the nose and exhaling through the mouth. Thinking about, as we inhale those breaths, bringing in fresh air and fresh space into the body, fresh opportunities. And as we take those exhales, think about cleansing and releasing tension, releasing anything that won't serve you or your mat or your space for the next hour. And then eventually you can close your mouth and start to breathe through your nose if that's there for you. Maybe allergies or for some other reason won't allow you to breathe through the nose. If that's the case for you, just breathe through your mouth and you're going to have a great practice. And you can choose to keep your eyes open, or you might choose to go ahead and close your eyes. And as we start our breath, just think about working that inhale up to a nice long steady inhale, finding just a little moment of pause at the top of the breath, and then releasing on the exhale. A similar count to the inhale, maybe even a little longer. And as we start to connect that breath, start to put some movement in the body on your inhale. Feel your belly rise and expand. Feel the rib cage rise and then the chest. And then as you exhale, first soften the chest, then release that rib cage, and then let the belly collapse in towards the spine. And as we're breathing here for the next few moments, getting ready to start our flow, opportunity for you to scan down through your body, see what might be a little extra tight or sore at this point. Opportunity to set an intention for your practice, something that we can come back and visit later in the practice. As we check in with our body throughout the practice, we can see how it feels different throughout the practice than what it does right now. Just a few more breaths, and then we'll start to connect our breath and our movement. So if you had your eyes closed, you may choose to open your eyes, bring your room into focus, or you may choose to keep your eyes closed. Let's go ahead and start off moving the back in some lateral directions. And again, if you have that blanket tipped under your tailbone, you can leave it there for now, or you can go ahead and remove it, your choice. Let's take the left hand and place it beside the left hip. Let's take the right hand. We're going to inhale, open to a big half moon stretch, reaching out long with the right arm, keeping that right hip pressed into the mat. And when we start our exhale, coming back to center, placing the right hand beside the right hip, inhaling open with the left side. That gaze might be trying to peek outside that shoulder, and then exhaling to come back to center, starting that flow with your breath pace as we inhale to open. Gaze tries to peek outside the shoulder while that hip presses into the mat. Exhale to come back, find your neutral spine. Inhale, open. Exhale to close. As you open, reach out long with that hand. Feel the stretch through the shoulder, the rib cage, and all the way into the top of that hip. Exhale and release. And let's move through one more on each side, again with your breath pace. If your breath pace gets different than mine, that's fine. Just move with your body and your breath pace and do what your body will allow throughout the practice. Always being free to take any modifications of the pose that are right for you, even if I may not show a modification that you know you like. So we're going to move into some twists, and for me, I'm going to remove the blanket now from under my tailbone. Again, if you like it there, you're welcome to keep it there for now. And making sure we're sitting up nice and straight again. We're going to inhale, hands up overhead. And let's exhale, twisting to the right side. Place that right hand right at the edge of your tailbone, sitting up nice and straight. Left hand outside the right knee. And gaze over the right shoulder. Getting ready to inhale, coming back to center. Finding that little pause at the top of the breath. Exhaling, twisting to the left, using that left hand at the base of the spine to sit up nice and straight. Twist comes through the core. Make sure the hand that's on the outside of that knee is not cranking on the knee. Always let your twist come through your core. Gentle assistance with that hand is okay. Continuing to flow with your breath pace. And again, if that's a little different than mine, that's fine. Just connect your breath and your movement. Take your nice full inhale to reach your center. Take that nice full exhale to reach your twist. Find that little moment of pause. Let's take one more twist on each side. And we'll meet back in our seated position. From here, you can choose to roll forward into tabletop, or you could take your legs out long and swing them around, whatever way is more comfortable for you. And for our tabletop, we're going to stack our elbows and wrists right under our shoulders. Hands are about shoulder distance apart. We're going to stack our knees right under our hips. Our knees are about hip distance apart. And the crown of the head's going to face forward. So we're going to get ready to move into some cat-cows. So let's start with an inhale, tipping the tailbone up, arching the back, bringing the chest and gaze forward, pressing the mat away from the hands. Exhale, let's tuck the tailbone, round the back, feel the shoulder blades press away from the spine, chin slightly tucks, mat continues to push away from the hands. Inhale, start to tip that tailbone up, arch the back, feel the shoulder blades come slightly towards the spine. Exhale, tuck, round. Press those shoulder blades away. Inhale for your cow. And exhale for your cat. Again, moving with your breath pace. As we take that nice full inhale to open, that nice full exhale to close into our cow. Our cat. Inhale, opening to your cow. Exhale, closing to your cat. Let's take one more in each direction. And then we'll meet back in our tabletop position with the crown of the head face forward. And we'll move into a little bit of spinal balance. So on the next inhale, we're going to take our right hand, our right arm, and left leg straight out. Lead with that left heel behind us. Reaching out long, crown of the head faces forward. Going to take 2 breaths. When you exhale that second breath, go ahead and sit that right hand and left knee down, and then inhale, left arm, right leg out. Lead with that right heel behind you. Keep the toes flexed. Continue to breathe. As you take your next exhale, let's sit that left hand and right knee down. And we're going to move back to the opposite side. So let's inhale, right hand and left leg out. Then we're going to open like a compass to the right side, keeping everything in line from the tip of that right middle finger to that left heel. Continuing our breath. When you start your next exhale, let's close. Sit that right hand and left knee down. And we'll inhale, left arm, right leg out. Again, leading with that right heel. And we'll inhale, open like a compass, keeping the crown of the head facing forward. On your next exhale, let's come back to center. Sit the left hand down, right knee down. We're going to cross the ankles behind us and come back to easy seated, or if it's more comfortable to swing your legs around like we did when we transitioned the last time, that's fine too. And then from our seated position, we're going to go ahead and take the legs wide. So we're going to take the right foot, move it over towards the right side of the room, left foot over towards the left side of the room. And then from here, we're going to bend the left knee and try to keep the heel on the left side of the groin. And if that's not possible, move the whole thing to the inside of the right thigh. That'll be fine. So we're going to do a little flow from a half moon pose to a half a wild thing. Follow along and we'll see how we make out. So let's take the peace fingers and we're going to reach for the big toe. If your peace fingers don't find the big toe, just find somewhere on the shin, below the knee, or above the knee, on the thigh. But we're going to go ahead and rotate open so we can line up our right rib cage with that right leg. And inhale, open to a nice big half moon stretch. Keeping that left glute on the mat as we reach out. When we exhale, coming back up, we're going to place the left hand right behind that back left pocket. Fingers are going to be facing the wall behind you. And then we're going to inhale as if someone just lifts our belt buckle straight up, pressing those hips up, reaching long with that right hand behind us. When we exhale, we're just going to lower the hips right down to the mat. Reach for that big toe. Inhale, open. Nice big half moon stretch. Left hip stays on the mat. Exhale, coming back up, planting that left hand right behind that left hip. Inhaling up to our half wild thing. Pressing those hips towards the ceiling. Exhale, softening the hips down to the mat. We'll inhale, open one more time on this left side to our half moon stretch. Rounding that left shoulder open, not closed. Exhale back, left hand behind that left hip. Inhale up. Exhale, lower the hips down. And we'll get ready to straighten that left leg out. And we're going to bend the right knee. Again, trying to keep that right heel on the right side of the groin. If that's not possible and your right foot ends up inside the left leg, that's fine too. Same thing here, we're going to keep the toes pulled back on the left foot. We're going to reach the peace fingers for that left big toe. If we don't find the big toe, find somewhere on the shin or on the thigh, above or below the knee. And we're going to rotate open, lining that left rib cage up with the left leg. And we're going to inhale, open to our big half moon stretch, letting the gaze go behind that right shoulder, keeping the right hip on the mat. Exhale, planting that right hand behind the back right pocket. Inhale, lifting those hips towards the ceiling, guiding with that left hand behind us. Exhale, soften the hips right down to the mat. Inhale, open. Left rib cage lines up with that left leg. Keep that right shoulder rounded open. Exhale, come back. Inhale, lifting the hips towards the ceiling. Exhale, slowly softening the hips back to the mat. Inhaling, open to our half moon, keeping that right glute on the mat. Exhale, sitting that right hand behind the right hip. Inhaling up to our half wild thing one more time. Exhaling down, letting the hips softly come to the mat. And then we'll go ahead and straighten our legs. And we're going to make sure we're sitting up nice and straight. Come into our staff pose. So in our staff pose, imagine we're sitting in a box that's designed just for your body. So we're sitting on the bottom of the box, our head's touching the top of the box, feet are touching the edge of the box, back is touching the back edge of the box. We'll put our hands right beside our hips, sit up nice and straight, keep the toes pulled back, and breathe. And we'll take an exhale, release that pose, and we're going to come into our boat pose. So a couple options here. I'll give you lots of different options. I'm actually going to turn sideways on the mat. Take the option that works for you, and if you have a favorite option for boat pose, feel free to go right to it. So some different options, always making sure we keep the back nice and straight, shoulders gently rested in their sockets, rib cage lifted, so we don't have that rounding in the middle of the back. So this is option one, just keeping the feet gently rested on the mat, still working the core is engaged. Option two could be to support the knees and raise the legs. You could lose your support. You can straighten your legs, just giving some different options. You may find one or the other leg starts to shake a little bit. That's okay. Keep the toes pulled back. Continue to breathe. As we start our next exhale, let's gently bend the knees, sit the feet on the mat, and I'll stay turning this way so you can see a little better. We're going to go ahead and come down to the mat. We're going to place our hands beside the hips, and we're going to inhale and take our legs up the wall. So we're going to go ahead and keep the toes flexed again, leading with our heels. When we exhale, bend the knees to 90 degrees, then hinge at the hips and just slowly let the feet come down to the mat. And then we'll inhale, hinging at the hips, then straightening the knees. Exhale, bend the knees, hinge at the hips, allowing the feet to slowly sink to the mat. And one more time, pressing hands into the mat. We'll inhale, legs up the wall. Exhale, bend the knees, hinge at the hips. Let the feet rest on the mat. We'll take our arms out long like a big letter T. We'll set up together on an inhale. And when we exhale, we're going to let our knees fall to the right side and turn our gaze over to the left side. We'll take 2 breaths here. And we're going to inhale, bring the knees into gaze, pointing back to the ceiling. Exhale, let the knees drop to the left side. We'll turn the gaze over that right shoulder. Again, continuing to breathe. Then we're going to inhale again, bringing knees and gaze back to the ceiling. And let's go ahead and bring the knees in towards the chest. We're going to give the knees a little hug. Keep the toes pulled back. As you give those knees a gentle hug, feel the release in the front of those hip flexors. And if you want to give a little extra care to those muscles on either side of the spine, just a little gentle roll side to side. May feel good. Eventually settling back in, drawing the knees towards the chest, drawing the toes back. And then let's exhale, release the knees down to the mat. And you can just come on up onto your knees for a moment, and we're going to go ahead and set back and find our first child's pose of the practice, letting the glutes settle back towards the heels. Maybe taking the option of long arms and pressing the mat away from the hands and lengthening the back before bending the elbows and taking all the work out of the pose. Enjoying a few breaths of rest in your child's pose. So while you're in that child's pose, opportunity to revisit that intention you may have set at the beginning of the practice. Opportunity to scan the body through the shoulders, the hips, the legs, see what might feel different now versus from the beginning of the practice. Opportunity to recalibrate the breath. We're going to get ready to continue our flow. So we'll take our arms out nice and long in front of us, setting up on an inhale and tucking the toes. When we exhale, use our core strength to raise our hips, finding down dog, letting the heels settle towards the mat, keeping those hands about shoulder distance apart. Let's inhale up onto the toes. Let's exhale and press the right heel towards the mat and the left knee towards the mat. Lift those hips up high and press the mat away from the hands. Inhale up onto the toes. Exhale, press left heel towards the mat, right knee, and lift those hips up. Inhale up onto the toes. This time we're going to exhale and press both heels towards the mat. And with those heels pressing towards the mat, lift the hips high. Press the shoulders away from the spine and keep the crown of the head pointing right between the thumbs. Let's just take a few breaths here in our down dog. And we'll get ready to twist our down dog. So we're going to set up on an inhale. When we exhale, taking the left hand and reaching it towards the right ankle. If you don't find the ankle, find somewhere on the shin, below the knee. Gaze might be out at that right wall, or it might be all the way under the right armpit looking up at the ceiling. Of course, continuing to breathe.
As we start our next exhale, let's untwist our dogs. Left hand back in down dog position. Setting up together on an inhale, and as we exhale, reaching that right hand towards the left ankle. Gaze might go out towards the left wall or all the way under that left armpit up towards the ceiling. As we continue our breath and our twisting down dog. And as you start your next exhale, we'll slowly release that right hand. Find our down dog. Inhale to high plank. You can always come to your knees on high plank and do modified high plank. Then we're going to shift forward. Exhale down for that chaturanga push-up. Elbows gently rub the ribs. We're going to come all the way down to the mat. We're going to place our hands right under the shoulders. Engage the core, as with any back bend, to protect our lower back. Inhale, coming up to baby cobra, using little or no pressure with those hands. Exhale down. So baby cobra is always an option, or you can come up to up dog, inhaling up, straightening the arms, choosing to leave the knees on the mat, or coming all the way to the tops of the feet, lifting the knees off the mat, continuing to breathe. As we exhale, rolling over those toes and finding down dog. And now we'll work that vinyasa flow at your breath pace, inhaling forward to plank or modified plank, shifting forward, exhaling down for either baby cobra or up dog, and finding down dog on the exhale. Take a breath. Then we're going to go ahead and bring the gaze up between the thumbs. We're going to start to tiptoe towards the wrists. So when the toes meet the wrists, or when the wrists start to peel off the mat, go ahead and come up nice and slow, one vertebrae at a time, allowing the shoulders to come back and the head to come up last. And we'll find our standing position. And let's go ahead and inhale, hands up overhead. Core engaged for a little back bend. Careful not to throw the neck back. We're going to exhale, bringing hips under center. Soft knees, swan diving forward into a forward fold. So option here for ragdoll arms, creating a little weight to get a little length in our back. Another option will be to take the hands and clasp them behind the back at the sacrum and start to raise those wrists as if somebody was pulling them towards the ceiling. Opening your shoulders, raising those shoulders towards the ceiling, and eventually exhaling and relaxing if you chose that option, or if you're still in ragdoll arms, that's fine too. And as we take our next inhale, we'll just come up again nice and slow, letting the shoulders round back and the head come up last. So finding our feet about hip distance apart, we're going to inhale up overhead, core engaged, taking our back bend. Exhale, coming under center, soft knees as we swan dive forward. Inhaling to a half lift, pulling back on the hips. Exhaling to a forward fold. Stepping back to a high plank or modified high plank and working your vinyasa flow. Inhaling forward, exhaling down, core engaged for your choice of back bend, and exhaling to down dog. Inhaling right foot up to a three-legged dog. Keep those toes pointed towards the ground. Exhale to a lunge pose, stepping forward. Inhaling left foot to meet the right, finding our half lift. Exhaling to forward fold. Inhaling, coming up all the way, shoulders round back, head comes up, hands float up overhead. Exhale, hands and eyes to heart center. And then we'll get ready to inhale, sweeping hands back up, core engaged for that back bend. Watch that neck doesn't throw back. Exhale, coming under center. Soft knees into our forward fold. Shifting the weight to the front of the feet, hips lift high. Inhale to a half lift, hips pull straight back. Exhale, forward fold. Stepping back to your version of plank and working your vinyasa flow. Inhaling forward, exhaling down, core engaged. Exhaling to down dog. Inhaling left foot up to a three-legged dog, toes point towards the ground. Exhale, stepping forward to our lunge pose. Inhale, right foot to meet the left, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Shift the weight to the front of the feet. Inhale, coming up nice and slow. Shoulders round back, head comes up.
Hands float overhead, and exhaling to heart center. You can let the hands go down by your side, rotate the palms out, close the eyes and take a breath of rest. So we're going to get ready to continue our flow. If you have a block or a strap, feel free to keep those close beside you. If you don't, that's fine. You'll be able to get by without them. There's some things that we're going to do where we'll offer the use of a block or a strap, and in your practice you may use those or not use those, and I would encourage you in this practice to just use them or not use them as you see fit and as works well for your body. So let's inhale, hands up overhead. When we exhale, we're stepping right foot back to warrior two. So keep that left heel and right heel in line. Nice wide open stance. Hips are open. Make sure we open this left knee. Stack that left knee right on top of the left ankle. When you look inside that left knee, make sure you can see some big toe. Take the arms out nice and long. Gently relax the shoulders, but lift that rib cage. Gazes out over that front middle finger. Maybe a little pressure on those pinky side edges of the feet. And the thighs are gently rotated towards the inside. Let's go ahead and take the right hand and bind the back of the right hand to the sacrum or the lower back. We're going to turn the left hand palm up, and we're going to inhale open to our radiant warrior. Reaching back long like someone's gently tugging that left wrist back. Feeling the stretch through the shoulder, the opening of the rib cage, all the way into the top of that left hip. Continuing to breathe. Next exhale, let's find warrior two. So we're going to go ahead and take our left hand, plant it inside the left foot for our side angle. And this is one where if you have a block, you may choose to use a block here on one height or another for your side angle. That's up to you. Couple choices there with the block. And then if you want to bind your side angle, this is where we may choose to add our strap into our right hand, and we take that right hand and bind it to the sacrum. Reach that left hand under and find our strap and open that right shoulder. If you don't want or need the strap for your bound angle, you can lose that and bind with the fingers. Exhale, either way. We'll release that bind and find warrior two. And now we're going to go ahead and straighten that front leg. Careful not to lock the knee. Inhale and shift forward above the waist like someone tugged that left wrist forward. Then we're going to open to our triangle pose. Again, with this block, you may choose to have that block on one height or another, or not at all. Right shoulder gently drawn back and stacked on that left shoulder. Let's put that bend back in our left knee, press into our left foot, and we're going to come back up and find warrior two. And we're going to get ready to step slightly forward with the back right foot and find warrior one. So our hips are going to go from fully open to fully closed and squared with the front of the room. I'm going to sit my block and my strap to the side for now. So for warrior one, imagine we have two different tracks. Left foot's balanced on one track, right foot is balanced but slightly open on the second track. Hips are square, quads are engaged, our rear glute is engaged, that's our right glute right now. Inhale, hands up, gently relax the shoulders, gently lift that rib cage, set up on an inhale. Exhale, we're going to go to humble warrior, hinging just at the hips, coming into airplane arms, crown of the head leads forward. Keep that core engaged so we're not collapsing on the thigh. Continue to breathe. Next inhale, we'll hinge at the hips, press into that left foot, come back to warrior one, take a breath. Then we'll inhale together. Exhale, coming back to humble warrior, this time arms straight out like the letter T. Breathe with the crown of the head face forward. Next inhale, pressing into that left foot, coming back to warrior one. So for this last one, you can use your real block or you can use an imaginary block. We'll inhale together, hold the block, exhale, hinge at the hips. This time, humble warrior with the arms straight out in front of us. Shoulders are still in their sockets. Crown of the head's reaching forward. Continuing to breathe. Next inhale, we'll press into that left foot. Come back up and find warrior one. Go ahead and bring your hands down to your hips. Inhale and step forward with the right foot to meet the left. Rotate the palms out, close the eyes, take a breath of rest. Then we'll get ready to inhale, hands up overhead. Exhale, stepping left foot back to warrior two. Heels are back in line here. Right heel's in line with the left heel. Right knee stacked on the right ankle. Make sure we see a little bit of big toe inside that right knee. Shoulders are again relaxed. Rib cage is lifted. Let's take this left hand and bind it to the sacrum. And we're going to take right hand palm up. Inhale, open to our radiant or reverse warrior. Reaching back long with that right arm. Feeling the stretch through the shoulder, the rib cage, into the top of that right hip. Next exhale, finding warrior two, settling in. Now we're going to get ready for our side angle. So remember, options to use the block inside this right foot on different heights, depending on what your body might like. Option not to use the block at all, your preference. When you're ready, we're going to go ahead and inhale and start to bring this right hand right inside that right foot. Left hand up to high 12. And if you want that strap in the left hand, now's the time to grab that. Go ahead and put that onto your sacrum. Let that strap hang down like a tiger tail. You can reach your right hand in and find the strap and bind like so. Or you could not use your strap, use your right hand, reach behind, find your left hand, bind those together. Open the left shoulder. Continue to breathe. Next exhale, we'll release the bind. Come find warrior two. We're going to straighten that front leg. Careful not to lock the knee. Inhale and take that little tug forward above the waist and rotate open into our triangle pose. Same options here for the block on that right hand. You may like to use that, or you may not. Left shoulder draws gently back. Stacks on the right. Let's put that bend back in our right knee. Press into the left foot on the inhale and find warrior two. Sitting your props off to the side, we'll go ahead and inhale and step forward with the left foot, squaring the hips, changing our stance to warrior one. So warrior one, again, we have those two tracks. Right foot's on one track, left foot's behind on the other track, slightly angled out. We're going to engage the quads, engage the rear glute, which is now the left glute. Hips are square. Inhale, hands up overhead. Gently relax the shoulders, lift that rib cage. We'll set up together on an inhale. Exhale to humble warrior with airplane wings, slightly angled back. Crown of the head's face forward. Draw that belly in so we don't collapse it on the thigh. Next inhale, pressing into that right foot, coming back up to warrior one. Exhaling to humble warrior with the letter T. Arms out wide like a big T. Crown of the head faces forward. Core is engaged so it doesn't collapse on the thigh. Next inhale, pressing into that right foot, finding warrior one, getting our real block or our imaginary block. And when we exhale this time, hinging at the hips, arms out nice and long, shoulders are still in their sockets, reaching that block out. Crown of the head stays faced forward. Next inhale, pressing into the right foot, coming up to warrior one. We'll sit that block down, step that left foot up to meet the right, rotate the palms out, and take a breath of rest. And just making sure we're clear of our props. We'll go ahead and inhale, hands up overhead. Exhale, coming into a forward fold, soft knees. Stepping back to your version of plank and working your version of your vinyasa flow. Inhaling forward, exhaling down, elbows gently rub the ribs, core engaged for baby cobra or up dog. Exhale to down dog. We'll come onto our knees and we'll find a child's pose, letting the glutes settle towards the heels, pressing the mat away from the hands, lengthening the back, then bending the elbows, no work in the pose, laying the forehead on stacked hands or stacked fists, and just taking a few breaths of rest to recalibrate. Opportunity to check in with the body here, see what feels different from the beginning of class till now. Opportunity to check in with your intention, if you chose to set an intention for your practice. And then when you're ready, we're going to take the arms out nice and long in front of us. Inhale together, tucking the toes. Exhale, reaching the hips high for down dog. Settling into our down dog. Lifting the hips towards the ceiling, pressing the shoulders away from the spine. Settling heels towards the mat. Crown of the head's pointing between the two thumbs. Now we're going to get ready to try our broken triangle. So listen closely on these cues. We're going to inhale left foot up to a three-legged dog. Exhale, bending the knee and bringing that knee towards the right elbow, extending that leg out straight so that the pinky side edge is on the mat. Pivoting on the ball of the right foot, turning that heel in towards the center of the mat. And inhaling open, reaching up high with our right hand. Stacking that right shoulder on the left. And continuing to breathe. Next exhale, let's bring that right hand down, put it in our down dog position. As we sweep the left leg back through, pivot on the ball of that right foot, turning it back parallel with the long edge of the mat, and we'll find our down dog. Take a breath here in down dog, and we'll set up for the opposite side. Inhaling right leg up to a three-legged dog. Exhale, bending that knee, sending that right knee towards the left elbow, and just before it touches, taking that right leg out long. Watch the props. As we open this left hand, pivot on the ball of that back foot, turning that heel, that left heel in towards the center of the mat. Stacking the left shoulder on the right. Reaching that left hand up towards high 12. Next exhale, let's bring that left hand back down to our down dog position. As we sweep the right foot through, pivot on the ball of that left, turning that left foot back parallel with the long edge of the mat. And then let's come on to our knees, and we'll sit up, stacking the knees under the hips about hip distance apart. Again, making sure our props are maybe a little further out of the way. And we'll set up for a little gate pose flow. So let's take our left leg and extend it out. So if we drew a straight line out from our right knee, we'd want it to line up with the big toe on that left foot. And then we're going to let our left hand travel down our left leg while we inhale open with our right. Almost like we're going to reach out with our right hand, like it's going to go try to find the outer edge of that left foot. Of course it won't, but that's just the direction we're heading. Gaze might try to peek behind that right armpit. Next inhale, coming back to center. And we'll bring the right knee back, sit it on, or left knee back, sit it under the left hip. And we'll extend the right leg out to the right side. Again, right big toes now just in line with that left knee as if a straight line was being drawn out to each side of that knee. Right hand's going to travel down the right leg. Left hand is going to inhale open, nice and wide. Reaching out long towards that right side of the room. Gaze might try to peek on the outside of that left armpit. Careful not to close on that left shoulder. Keep that stacked and drawn back. Next exhale, coming back, sitting that right knee back under the right hip. And then we're going to get ready to do a little camel pose. So I'm going to turn to the side so you can see this a little better. We're going to keep the knees and the hips stacked right on top of each other. We're going to go ahead and make a set of fists. We're going to just take a nice big shoulder roll. Let those fists land right in that lower back or sacrum. Try to keep the elbows, we'll want to just spread, keep those drawn gently back, shoulder blades like they're drawn towards the spine. We're going to engage the core like for all back bends, protecting our lower back. We're going to push those fists gently into that lower back. Imagine you have like a grapefruit under your chin. We don't just want to let the chin just fall back. Keep that grapefruit under your chin. Keep those hands pressed into your sacrum. If you like to release the hands to your heels, you can do that. Just keep those hips pressed forward. Core is continuing to be engaged. On our next inhale, we can slowly start to come back up. And we'll just take that right into a child's pose, rewarding that back from a back bend into a nice forward fold. Finding some release. Just for a few breaths. And then coming on up. And we're going to go ahead and get into a little bit of a hip exercise. So we're going to try our supine pigeon. I'm going to go ahead and remain sideways to the camera here. So hopefully you can see this. So we'll start off like we're setting up for wiper knees with the knees pointed up towards the ceiling, gaze looking up towards the ceiling. Just be aware here as we lay on the mat of the shoulders being in contact with the mat and that tailbone being in contact with the mat. We'll come back and visit that in just a moment. So let's go ahead and cross the left leg over the right. So I'm just sitting right here below the ankle, is sitting right up above my right knee. And then I'm going to think about drawing the toes back on both feet and letting this right knee come like it's going to try to make its way towards my right chest and lay on my right chest. I'm going to let the leg do most of the work. But we are going to take the right hand on the outside of this right thigh and the left hand on the inside, clasp them behind. We'll let the hands do maybe 20% of the work, but we're going to let the right leg do most of the work here. And this left elbow can gently press into the inside of this left thigh, giving a little extra opening to that hip. And now coming back to that awareness of the shoulders on the mat, tailbone on the mat, toes gently drawn back, maybe even a little bit of pressure on the big toe side on that left foot, protecting that left knee. Gaze is straight at the ceiling as we continue to breathe. Each exhale, just trying to find a little more release in that hip. Now we're going to start to gently release the pose. So just let gravity and that right foot start to work together. Let the hands gently unclasp from behind that right thigh. We'll let that right foot come all the way down to the mat. We'll take the arms out nice and wide like a big letter T, setting up on an inhale. When we exhale, we'll let the left foot find a little gravity and start to fall over towards the right side while the gaze turns over that left shoulder. We're going to take about 3 breaths here. As you start your next inhale, start to let that right knee come back so it points towards the ceiling. We'll gently uncross that left leg from the right. And we'll get ready to set up on the opposite side. So we will cross the right leg over the left. Again, right below that ankle, sitting right above that left knee. And we're going to draw the toes back on the feet. We're going to be aware of the shoulders and the tailbone on the mat. They may lift off the mat here in a moment when we wrap the hands, but we'll bring them back down. So let that left leg now start to do the work like it's going to come back. And you may find, if you're like me, one side's tighter than the other. My right hip's tighter, so this one won't go back as far. But left hand's now going to go outside the left leg, right hand on the inside. Notice those shoulders came up. We're going to bring those shoulders back down to the mat, tailbone on the mat. Draw the feet back on both feet, or toes back on both feet. Let that left leg do the work. Right elbow can give a little assistance by gently pressing the inside of that right thigh. Maybe a little pressure on that right big toe, protecting that right knee. But letting the left leg here do most of the work. Hands maybe 20% assistance. Elbow with a gentle press, that right elbow into the left thigh. Of course, continuing to breathe. As we start our next exhale, we're just slowly going to let the left foot find gravity. As it goes down, release the hands from around the left leg. We'll take the arms out wide again like a big letter T. Set up on an inhale. And as we exhale, now the right foot finds gravity, falling over towards the left side as the gaze goes over towards the right. Taking 3 breaths here. Then inhaling, bringing that left knee pointing back towards the ceiling, gently uncrossing the right leg from the left. And from here, we're just going to take a little bridge pose. So staying right here in this position, walk those heels in towards the glutes so that when our hands are down beside the hips, we can reach out and touch the heels. And then we'll take the hands and put them right beside the mat on the hips. We're going to inhale, bring that tailbone off the mat, then come up nice and slow, 1 vertebrae at a time. Gently tucking that left shoulder towards the spine, then the right shoulder towards the spine as we're up. And choosing to stay right here with the hands pressing into the hips, belt buckle being pressed towards the ceiling. Imagine that blocks right between the knees. Or you can clasp the hands right under the lower back. Really press those shoulders towards the ceiling. Continue to breathe, make sure we can lift the head, not pinching the neck. As you start your next exhale, if you chose to take that bind, gently release, start to let that back travel down towards the mat. Once we're there, sitting up, and we'll find a forward fold with our staff pose. Walk those glutes back, sit up nice and straight, pull the toes back, inhale, hands up overhead. Exhale, forward fold, hinging at the hips, keeping that back nice and long. Hands may just find the shins, or they may fold over the toes. Crown of the head's reaching long. And on your next inhale, we'll just bring that up nice and slow, back to a seated position. And we'll come back to an easy seated. And from here, I'm just going to invite you to take any other stretches or movements that feel good to you before we start our Savasana. So if that's anything, more wiper knees or any other stretches you like, what I'll suggest is a nice big full body stretch laying on your mat, reaching the hands up overhead, pointing and flexing the toes a few times, bringing the shoulders up to the ears, and then eventually relaxing and finding your just right spot for your Savasana. And if you have a blanket you like to cover with, you could use the blanket to cover with. You could use the blanket to make yourself a little pillow for under your knees or under your ankles or whatever you may like. If you have a weight like your block or anything else, you may choose to lay it right over your waistline for a little grounding. Just take your favorite position or your most comfortable position for your Savasana period. Come onto your mat, start to let your breath come down to its normal pace. So now's a good time to revisit that intention that you may have set at the beginning of the practice. Good time to scan the body from head to toe, see what's feeling different as we work through our shoulders and our legs. Take a scan from head to toe and just relax the body. Close the eyes gently. Make sure we're not crunching the eyebrows down or holding the forehead. Relax the face muscles, relax the jaw. Let the shoulders be soft and just meld into the mat. Let the chest soften, rib cage. Let the belly be soft. Hips are melded into the mat. Quads are relaxed, knees are relaxed. All the way down through the calves and the toes. And just enjoy this time to give back rest and restoration to your body and your mind. So you could start thinking about introducing some small movements into the body, just some feelings of awakening, maybe a raise of the eyebrows, a little twitch of the nose, some wiggling of the fingers and toes. Keeping the mind restful, but starting to awaken the body. Wrists and ankles will start to move. Eventually, when you're ready to start bending elbows and knees, you can have the option to continue on your back. Or you can make your way to your right side for a few breaths. Choosing maybe to put one hand in contact with the ground, just for a little bit of a feeling of a recalibration. Some nice calming energy coming from the earth. Just a few more breaths as we reflect on our practice. When you feel ready, and your body feels ready, certainly no hurry, take your time, and we'll make our way to a comfortable seated position on our mat. Once you're there, sit up nice and straight. Just take your arms out nice and wide, palms facing up, and we'll enjoy a nice unifying breath together to end our practice. Let's inhale through the nose, bringing our hands up overhead, connecting fingertips and palms. And exhale through the mouth as we bring those hands down to heart center. The light in me sees and honors the light in each of you. Namaste.